This look very professional photography. Can you see my face good? Should I do anything different? How's that? Tactical gardener gets sweaty. It's hot out. We're gardening, folks. Sam, go away.
You gonna lay down there by the cold water?
Hello, everyone. It's the Tactical Gardener here, and I'm here to give you a 16-day update on the Red versus Blue Challenge and see which video is working better. I don't know. You're f***ing me up with your whole little like, come here.
I'm trying to get Sam to come over here.
Stoner dog wants to hang out there.
Well, you didn't want him there before, so I was trying to help.
Well, I didn't want him like in my smelling my junk. That's usually what he tries to do is smell my.
He wants to know what's going on with you.
Cut that out.
You're the one that started it.
Anyways, hello everyone, it's the Tactical Gardener. Just taking a quick break from building mushroom beds out in the garden to give you a 2-week or 16 days to be precise update on how these buckets we made 16 days ago are holding up. Or I can tell you they're holding up really good. Better choice of words would be how they're growing. As you can see, we have a little bit of grass growing out of one of these 1/2-inch holes. Not a big deal. We'll just pick that off and drop it. We don't really see too much on this side, but as we turn it a little bit more, turn it some more. Oh, what do we have? We have pins coming out right here. And we have some pins and some baby mushrooms coming out in these holes. That's looking pretty good. This is off to a great start for 16 days of growth. Let me give you a closer up view. Look at that. Those are looking wonderful. Some of them are even bigger than the others. But how does the red compare to the blue? The main question. On the blue bucket, we have a little bit of grass growing out of one of the holes also. Let's get rid of that guy. But now as we turn it, you will notice we have a lot more pins in all of these holes. All of these holes have pins coming out. Look at these. But the further we turn it, we get even more pins. There is a lot of little pins coming out. They're not quite as big as the red bucket, but there is definitely more of them. Let's get a closer look. As you can see, little pins right there. More little pins right there. But look at all of these. Very soon, all of these will turn into delicious Italian oyster mushrooms that we can eat with all of our meals. Stay tuned for an update on the red versus blue challenge to see which bucket comes out on top in the end. The red with fewer but larger pins, or the blue with more but smaller pins in more holes. It has been 18 days since we inoculated the red and the blue bucket with Mission Myco oyster mushroom grain spawn, and 2 days since I showed you guys all the pins that were forming. Look at the explosion of mushroom growth over the past 2 days. Now, there's a lot of these that we have to harvest, and there's some of these that we're going to leave behind. So let's head down to the barn so I can show you guys how to harvest these mushrooms, and we can determine what bucket is currently in the lead this week, the red or the blue. Let's find out. And now it's time to harvest the mushrooms that are ready so we can eat them. So what is the first thing that you're going to need to harvest these mushrooms? Well, first of all, you're going to need somewhere to put them. These bowls, 2 of them. One for the blue, one for the red, that we're going to collect our mushrooms in, weigh them, keep a tally in a running tool. So that way, when these buckets are done producing, or in another couple of weeks, we'll have a good determiner of what bucket is actually the winner, the red or the blue. So let's get started harvesting. There's two different ways that you can harvest these. You can grab the cluster and twist it off and hope you don't break any of the mushrooms. It works. It works good. I do it sometimes. The other way is you want to get in here and you want to cut. Let me turn this upside down so you can see it a little bit better. Oh man, look at that. We got some little pins coming out the bottom. Let's get rid of those because those aren't going to grow big. Now that I got this turned over so you can see it better, the next thing we're going to need is something like a knife because we don't want to just rip these off. Although you can, it doesn't lean as clean of a cut, and I want a clean cut on mine. So let's grab our knife and start hacking away. All right, now as you can see, we got the base of the mushroom growing out right here. This is where we are going to want to cut it off, like nice and even and flush with that hole. With that hole, look at that. We got us a clean cut right here. Clean cut away. Clean hole right here. We turn that so you can see. Look at that. That is perfect. That's exactly what we want. And now we're just going to set this to the side and we're going to harvest another one right here. Look, let's do that again so everyone can get a good view. Take your knife. Cut that off. Look at that. Clean. Oh, folks, look at that. Now, if you're like me and you're growing these outdoors, you might get a slug in there. Make sure you get rid of them slugs because they can kill you. You might die if you eat one. So just look and get rid of any slug like that. All right, now that we got these bottom two off, let's take this top one off right here. And I'm going to do it from the top so you can see that you don't have to turn the bucket over. You just bring your knife in there and you just cut it off like that. Set it in your bucket. And you know what, folks? We're also going to take this one here. Look at that. We got us a whole bucket now of mushrooms. We still got a couple more growing, which hopefully tomorrow we could take the rest of these off. See where we're at. Now, let's examine the blue. All right, now on the blue, we're going to take this clump right here because it looks like these are starting to flatten out. Now, as you can see, we pulled a little bit more than we sliced, and we ripped out a little bit of mycelium. Not a big deal. We'll still have mushrooms growing out. All right, now, everyone, as you can see, these are starting to flatten out. They're not curled up yet, but they're starting to flatten. And I've been doing this long enough to know that if we wait until morning, they're going to be a little bit too big, like those first ones on the red bucket. So we're going to preemptively cut these off tonight. This clump here. And this one here. And now all the rest of these on both buckets can wait till tomorrow. Now, Tactical Gardener, you might be asking yourself, which bucket's in the lead? Because we just harvested the blue, and that's not quite full, but we harvested the red as well, and that's overflowing. But you know what? The nice thing about mushrooms is that you don't just harvest it once and it's done like some other plants. You know, there's some other plants you plant in the springtime or late winter, early spring, and you manicure and you take care of them all year round. And then the end of the year, you chop them down, and those plants, they don't grow anything anymore. They're done. They just grow once, and then you chop them, and they're done. Mushrooms, on the other hand, they will continue to grow until they utilize all the nutrients in the bucket. And remember, we put a lot of straw in there, so we should be able to get a few flushes of mushrooms. And right now, we're on flush 1, but we still got some growing. So let's get these weighed up and see where we are at on day 18 of the bucket challenge. But how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use a scale. If you have never used a scale like this, it's very simple to use. let me walk you through the steps so that you don't get confused on how a scale works. First, you set your scale down. Make sure, you want to push on all four corners. Look at that. Look at that. You see, we got that wiggle. That's not good. You don't want that wiggle in there. Oh, look at that. Nice. The scale is flat and level, ready to go. So once you get your scale set up and it's nice and level and ready to go, you can either turn it on like so. What are we reading here? Zeros. And you can set a clump of mushrooms on there and write that down and then swap it with the next one, but that's going to take a long time. So instead, we're going to turn this on and we're going to get an identical bowl to the ones we already have set on the scale, and then you push tare. And that tare doesn't mean you're going to rip it. That just means it resets it to zero as if this bowl is now weightless. And then magic. We just switch out these and we have what? 1 pound, 11 ounces on the red, and 1 pound, 3 ounces on the blue. Look at that, folks. We are 8 ounces more red. That means on day 18, the red bucket is in the lead. Now, who do you think is going to be in the lead tomorrow after we harvest some more? Leave your comments below and let me know who you think is going to win, the blue or the red. The red, 8 ounces in the lead, but the blue, a lot of mushrooms that are going to be ready to harvest tomorrow. Let's see where we're at tomorrow.
Said I'm done with you.
We are back, everyone. It is the next day. And as you can see, our mushrooms have grown up a little bit more. Some of these, though, as you can see from these close-up photos right here, are a little bit past their prime. Now, we should have woken up this morning really early when the sun was coming up and come straight out and harvested these, and they would have been perfect. But we didn't, mostly because I wanted to wait a little bit into the afternoon to get you photos and really good example of what the edge of the mushroom curling up looks like, so that you know when you're growing these at home with the Mission Myco grain spawn, how far is a little bit too far or too ripe, as you might say, for growing these at home on your own. Because if you've never seen it a little bit past prime, you won't know what that looks like. So we have let these go just a little bit past their peak prime. Now, trust me, these are still good and they're going to taste delicious. I'm actually going to eat these for dinner tonight. That's how I feed myself with all of these mushrooms I grow. Now, let's get to harvesting and see who will come out on top at the end of the day. The red over here, or the blue over here. This rock I'm sitting on, it kind of hurts my butt. Let's get to harvesting. And for that, we're going to need our knife. The blue is done. That's a pretty good amount. Now time for the red. Look at that. I can even do it left-handed. Now that we have harvested the blue and the red, let's weigh these and see what we're looking at.
Nope, not done yet.
Now, folks, that we have these weighed up, you can clearly see that today's harvest of the blue bucket was 12 ounces. And the red bucket on this side over here, today, we harvested 8 ounces. That leaves us for a total of 1 pound 15 ounces total in the blue, and 2 pounds 3 ounces over here in the red. That puts the red bucket 4 ounces in the lead. It's still anyone's game though, because we still have 2 to 3 or maybe even more flushes of mushrooms that we will get out of each of these buckets in the coming weeks. Right now, everyone needs to go onto missionmyco.com and buy some grain spawn so you can grow your own delicious culinary mushrooms like these at home and save yourself the trip of going to the store and buying some that somebody else grew that who knows what they put in it. They could have had chemicals. You might not even be able to find these at the store, or you might just want to be self-sufficient and grow your own. Either way, however you look at it, go on to missionmyco.com and start buying grain spawn to grow your own mushrooms or any of the other supplies that are sold on missionmyco.com and get started today.